What's up? Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to episode 16 of the KnightCASTle podcast. It's been a hot minute, but it's spring slash summer. We're out of school, so we're not as busy as as we used to be. But I'm your host, Demetrius Montero, my co-host,
Matthew Feldman. What's up, guys?
and we are the UCF beat writers for the UCF Roundtable, covering everything UCF sports, basketball, and football primarily. And we're gonna kick off with honestly the biggest news. It's been a bit, but it's still big news for UCF, and it's Malachi Lawrence getting drafted in the first round. We did I'm gonna say we did extensive coverage, but we did keep up with how Lawrence was ranking in the draft, and a lot of rankings initially had him as a second round guy, so he'd be a day two. Um, but he ended up going to the Dallas Cowboys at pick number 23, if I remember correctly, if it was 23, and that's the highest draft pick of a defensive player in UCF history.
Yep.
So he did make program history getting drafted that high, going into the late first round. So I think that's pretty amazing because he had a really good season. He had a really good season for UCF, and he leaves a legacy that, like, hey, you can be at a school like UCF. Like, you don't have the biggest budget to pay XYZ player and ZYX player, three times over. And he was able to stay and develop, and he shows that, hey, you could go to this school and be a first round pick. So I think it's really cool that he made program history being the highest drafted defensive player out of UCF. And I think he's probably joining a good Cowboys defense, especially they drafted Caleb Downs earlier that night. And yeah, there's also a little bit of a UCF connection there too. It's Lawrence and Dimitri Brim, if I remember correctly. He used to be I believe it was defensive analyst
Yep.
or something of that nature,
Yep.
something
Yep.
of that role. And he's at least having some kind of familiarity there in Dallas. And again, it's just nice to see that a UCF player just goes first round because I forgot the last time a UCF player went in the first round, to be
Yeah.
honest, right? Especially that high. So, Matthew, what are your thoughts on Malachi getting drafted to the Dallas Cowboys and especially making program history?
Yeah. I think if I'm correct, he's the second first round player to ever go from the defense, besides Mike Hughes, who's with the Falcons. So I think that was the last one, and then before that, it might have been Blake Bortles. So we've had a bit of a drought with first rounders, but yeah, I mean we covered his rise extensively. I think prior to the draft combine and very early in the pre-draft process, he was a third round, fourth round looked at guy, like not very highly touted, and then he had that great combine performance and began to rise up the mock drafts. Um, and I think it's good that he landed with the Cowboys. Now, of course, if you're not a Cowboys fan, you're probably anti-Cowboys, but him being on a team that is going to be on TV all the time, always in the talks, always in the media, and they've really been scrambling looking for defensive line help since they moved Micah Parsons. So he can step in and immediately be their most talented pass rusher. They have good interior D line with Quinnen Williams and some other young guys that they went and picked up. So I think he'll be great on their edge. They both Jerry Jones and the CEO of or their president of football operations, whatever the title is, Stephen Jones. They both talked about how they were exploring trade back options where they thought that they could get him later in the first round, but they really liked him and didn't want to risk missing out on him, which I think says a lot about how they viewed him as a player. Um, I think it's great that he's reuniting with Brim. He has someone in the facility that he already knows. And Caleb Downs and him should make probably the best defensive duo taken in that first round, maybe outside of the Jets, who took two talented guys as well. But yeah, they praised him. Both Joneses praised him for staying at UCF all 4 years, which in today's landscape doesn't happen, especially with a school that doesn't have the resources that most do. Like he his production, he could have gone somewhere else. He could have gone a lot bigger schools and probably worked his way into bigger conversations before the combine and better draft standing before the combine if he did move. But he talked about, he said, I just wanted to show that you can be drafted if you go to UCF, which I think is very cool. I mean, we were really one of the first teams to recruit him coming out of high school, and he committed to us just like we committed to him. And I'm glad to see it worked out for him. But I think Dallas is going to be a lot better this year on the defensive side of the ball. I think they basically drafted all defense. So he should be part of a better unit and should have a big role right away.
Yeah, I agree, especially because like you mentioned, the Cowboys are going to be on TV all the time, and I think the NFL just released that the Cowboys and Giants are going to be like the prime time Week 1 matchup.
Very
So
cool.
you're gonna have, if Lawrence does get some significant playing time, you will see him. UCF fans will see him on the big screen and be able to see what kind of performance he puts out there against bigger, stronger, quicker offensive linemen, especially the Giants. I know they got Daniel Falele in free agency, and I think they drafted Francis Marigoa
Mm-hmm.
as well. So they kind of beefed up their offensive line a little bit just to see, all right,
Maui
how.
Goa said he would die for Jackson Dart. So that's who Malachi's gonna be going up against. But
Yeah, so there's gonna be just a little bit of uptick in speed and competition. So definitely get to see firsthand how Lawrence is gonna handle uh the adjustment to the NFL, especially this past weekend having rookie mini camps. I don't know if Dallas released any like media availability for Lawrence during those rookie mini camps.
yeah, I didn't see
So
much.
uh But outside of Lawrence, there are still a couple other UCF players who made the NFL, albeit not drafted, but signing with teams as undrafted free agents or earning invites to rookie minicamp. So we had Jaden Nixon go to the Green Bay Packers. Nigel Kelly, who was on the opposite side of Lawrence, also signed with the Packers. Alice Montgomery went to the New England Patriots. Kelly Lawson went to the Minnesota Vikings. And I do remember seeing Philip uh, Philip Dunham getting a rookie minicamp invite to the Tennessee Titans, as well
Yep.
as Marcus Burke and Noé Ruelas, the kicker. He had an invite to the Colts rookie minicamp, which is kind of a full circle moment for him, knowing that one of his idols was Adam Vinatieri, and he
Yep.
was the Colts kicker for I don't know how long.
Mhm.
Listen, some of my football knowledge comes from extensive time playing Madden. All right.
Mine too. Mine too.
So, yeah, I think it's just nice to have a UCF player go in the first round and really just kind of put on for Orlando, saying that, hey, you can go to UCF, you could stay, 3, 4 years, maybe 5, and really make it to the NFL. So it's good to see that he's putting on and he's kind of he could kickstart a little bit of a trend like, oh, hey, Lawrence Malachi Lawrence did this. Who's the next player up from UCF who's been here for however many years and it's going to be a day one, day two pick. So moving on from Lawrence, we get straight into spring football that recently ended. I think last Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago, and it's good to see that spring football was kicking off. You get to see a lot of the transfers and the freshmen, how they gel with the returners. UCF did have a lot of returners, which is good. You're building a foundation while adding, newfound talent. So, some of the key transfers were running backs Duke Watson from Louisville and Landon Chambers from Central Arkansas. They have been getting, some love on on the media as like a highly touted running back duo for UCF, as a 1-2 punch. And UCF also has additional running back depth in Ajamin Adai, who was a walk on last season. Tavion Swint, he redshirted his freshman year because he was injured. He suffered an injury, I think exactly in last spring camp. So he didn't play his freshman season. So he's a redshirt freshman now. Um, like UCF also added some impact receivers in Josh Derry from Monmouth and Jonathan Bibbs from Louisiana Monroe. So there are a lot of impact for offensive transfers. And that kind of leaves the elephant in the room where if you're watching and you're like, why haven't you mentioned Alonzo Barnett the third? And I mean,
Yep.
he he was the like top transfer in, and I think everybody knows that. Like Alonzo Barnett the third was the biggest get for UCF, but you didn't see him at all throughout spring practice. You didn't. And it was because Scott Frost and the coaching staff decided to take things a little bit slow with Barnett third and really be cautious with some nagging injuries. Again, they're nagging. It wasn't anything that fully hindered his ability to practice with the team, but it was just something like, hey, we just want to take this slow with Barnett the third, especially him leading James Madison to their first college football playoffs appearance. Unfortunately, they lost to Oregon, but still, you're able to play that high level football, and you have such an impactful transfer come in who could just like transform the offense straight up.
Yep.
As Frost mentioned, like you got to be smart with your guys, especially when you're investing money into them now. Like you kind of got to double back and really, really, really be cautious with some of these players, and they they took that approach with Barnett the third, but he still was out there interacting with the team and taking mental reps on noting how the receivers are coming out of their routes, where the receivers like the ball, et cetera, et cetera. And he was still very active in team activities. So it's the only thing that we missed out on, particularly, is seeing him get those reps, seeing him throw the ball, seeing him talk with the players and all of that extra stuff. But overall, I think spring camp this offseason, it was pretty promising, seeing that all the transfers and the freshmen, including, were really impressing the coaches and really just making their impact felt on the field. Especially the biggest, probably the biggest storyline in spring camp is who's going to be the backup quarterback to Alonzo Barnett the third, and that's kind of a complete 180 from last year. When last year we're like, who's going to be the starting quarterback? Now
Right.
we're like, who's going to be the backup?
Hmm.
So I think that's probably one of the biggest storylines coming out of spring training camp. And Matthew, what are some of your takeaways, some of your thoughts on spring camp?
Yeah, I mean Barnett's obviously the big headline, but he's experienced. He's older. I'm not really worried about him playing in the spring or not. Mackenzie Milton had said that he's very involved with the team still. He's still going to meetings. He's still doing running. Staying in shape. And he said that championships aren't won in the spring. So we'll have more practices. We'll have more time for Barnett to get comfortable. And you mentioned the quarterback too. I think that this will actually be very beneficial to those guys, especially the young guys like Rocco Marriott, to get some reps as the guy. Like everyone's playing as the starter right now because our presumed starter can't. So him and Keon Jenkins will probably end up starting the season as the backup just because of his experience, and they clearly like him. They call him lights out, and he has good experience coming from an in-state program. So he'll probably start the season as quarterback too. But getting Marriott, who is our highest ranked recruit at the quarterback position ever, getting him reps early and often, and allowing also the coaching staff to see what they have with him is, I think, a big luxury that we have this year. You mentioned last year we didn't know who the starter was till like a week before Jacksonville State. So, and I think having this guy in the building, they always talk about, he's talented, he can throw, he can run, but the main thing they talk about is his leadership. So just having him there, I feel like I don't know if he's the main catalyst. I think he's definitely helped, but I see in the pressers that everyone is focused on one goal. Whenever they ask questions about what are you focused on this season, it's a Big 12 championship and making my group, whether it's the D line, wide receivers, running back, whatever that room is, making that the best in the Big 12. And even some have talked about being the best in the nation. So I think that that's a good mindset to have, even if, UCF doesn't have those expectations. That's the that's the mindset that we need to have if we're going to grow as a program and end up being a real contender. So I'm not really worried about the quarterback position. I think that'll all work itself out. You mentioned the Oregon game. I mean, he balled out in that Oregon game, and then they went and that same Oregon defense that he scored 30 something points on shut out Texas Tech the next week. So it's not like he was playing against some podunk defense. Like he showed out and he got rewarded for it. He moved up to the Power Four level, and I still expect him to be the best quarterback that we've had in my time at UCF, and provide just a little bit of security in that room, because as you mentioned, we've not really had that over the past couple of seasons. So I think overall spring was positive, outside of him not playing, but I think everyone who has talked and everyone who has expressed their thoughts to the media is all on the same page and pushing towards one common goal, which is important.
Yeah, it's good to have uh the same common goal, right? Winning a Big 12 championship. Because Scott Frost in his first year of his second tenure, went 5-7. So you missed the bowl game. I know there was a little bit of like complication with the bowl game because Notre Dame decided to like not play a bowl game.
Right.
So it made this whole you are invited to the bowl game, but you could decline it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was an entire complicated process. But UCF ended up ultimately not wanting to go to a bowl game because they were 5-7. I think at that point in time, some of the seniors and or players who were transferring were like already just gone from the team, so it would just be
Right.
hard to get the team back. But it's good to see that they all have one common goal, winning the Big 12. Although the media doesn't really think UCF has it like that. Like
Yeah.
they don't, to be completely honest. Some think UCF is just gonna be the same. Some think they're gonna regress. I think yesterday I put out a story where um, a Twitter account predicted UCF to go 4-8, and it's like 4-8. They had 30. They had over 30 transfers. Got the top transfer in for them in Barnett the third. They got proven production at the lower levels for some of these other guys. Like Derry was an 1,000-yard receiver at the FCS level. Chambers was an 1,000-yard rusher at the FCS level. So again, just getting that proven production, and I get it. It's not like the splashiest transfer portal. It's not like Ohio State got John Walker, right? Former UCF DT. They got John Walker. Like that's kind of just a little bit of a splashy name, just because of what Walker did in high school and how highly touted he was. Um, so again, UCF didn't really get the biggest names outside of Barnett the third, but I think going after proven production and everyone really having that kind of experience and leadership, I don't think it's gonna make the team go 4-8 unless, like I mentioned in my story, the injury bug happens again. Which last year the injury bug was vicious.
Yeah.
That was the reason why the Knights saw 3 different quarterbacks start and
Yeah.
get like legit snaps in game. That wasn't garbage time. Um, and like you also saw some key defensive players just be out for the season because of injuries as well. Or you have some of these key impact transfers just underperform. Like the spotlight is a little too bright. The change in speed is just a little bit too much. And so again, I don't really see the Knights being 4-8, especially kind of going off the history with Scott Frost and heading into his second year of his first tenure. UCF went 13-0. Now, to preface, UCF, I don't think is going to go 13-0 in his second year. I'm not saying they will. Okay? Do not hold that against me. But I do expect some improvement because you went 5-7. You missed the bowl game, and your bowl game came down to the last game of the season against BYU, in which they had a really good first half
Yeah.
until BYU said, "Yeah, we're a ranked team. We're gonna dominate you in the second half."
Yeah.
So I just think it comes down to you can't get hit with the injury bug like last year. If it does, then maybe a 4-8 season is like I get it because there's some key losses there. But even then, even with the injury bug, you were able to go 5-7. Like
Yeah.
you lost Horace Lockett to a torn pectoral muscle. You lost Sincere Edwards to a Lisfranc injury. Like you had inconsistent quarterback play, although Taven Jackson, who's now at North Texas, was the primary starting quarterback. You
Hmm.
were still able to like go 5-7. Honestly, it just comes down to one, not getting injured, which I get it. You can't control when you get injured. Like you just can't. But it's also you got to do better than 2-7 in the Big 12. You got to do better than that record in the conference. You know, you can't rattle off 3 straight losses. Then you finally get a win. Rattle off another 3-game losing streak and then get another win. And then, again, you leave it to fate at the last game of the season. So I think it's very important that these new players continue to gel with the team over the summer, especially since there is no spring transfer portal. So like the team is just locked in now. Like
Yep.
there is no, hey, I'm coming to UCF. I'm gonna like practice with you for 2 weeks, and I realize I'm not getting that much opportunity, and I'm out. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah.
No, they're all locked in. Everyone's gonna be together for season starts in August, September. So
Yeah.
everyone's gonna be there for like an additional 3-4 months. So they're all gonna gel together. They're all gonna understand what the playbook is like, and hopefully that translates in fall camp and when the season starts so that UCF actually has the season they want. Frost said in the Rise episode on YouTube that he wants to have the best Big 12 off season, right? And going 4-8 does not mean you have the best Big 12 off season. You didn't. But um so I mean we'll see. The season fall camp is several months ahead. So I mean we'll provide a little bit of an update once that gets closer. But moving on from football, we do have the basketball transfer portal. Basketball transfer portal was it wasn't like the football transfer portal in January where like you just rattled off transfer after transfer after
Hmm.
transfer after transfer. I think the Knights and Coach Johnny Dawkins, who received a contract extension, did get some. They were able to recoup some of their losses in the transfer portal, right? Losing Chris Johnson, Jamichael Stillwell, who he's a question mark. We will get into that in a little bit, because that context, I mean, that situation is kind of complicated.
Yeah.
Um, and especially losing Jordan Burks late, like super late. So
Yeah.
they were able to at least not retain. They were able to get some new talent in Jason Asemoda, Churchill Abbas, um, Isaiah Malone, Caden Vasco, and some more players in the transfer portal. So they were able to recoup, get some really good talent in, and add that to the foundation of the already returning players. Like they got John Bull back, they got Elijah Josue. Um, so already having they got also Carmelo Pacheco back too. So already having that foundation, adding the transfers on top of that, um, it should bode well for Coach Dawkins and the rest of the team, especially heading into next season. So Matthew, what are your thoughts on the men's basketball transfer portal?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the guys we brought back. I think John Bull is the main guy there. Obviously, he started basically every game for UCF last year, and I think he really developed as the season went on. He's still only a sophomore; he'll be a junior next year, and he's shown commitment to the program. I saw him out at a UCF rowing event. Like he loves the city, which I think is important, especially for a guy that is like his potential with his size and his ability. He could be a big difference maker this year. And I think they had a real focus on getting young talent as well, young development, like Mr. Dean. He's Arturo Dean's brother. So we have a pair of brothers on the team now. Arturo, of course, didn't play last season because he transferred in too late. But I actually have a buddy who played with Mr. at UCF or USC Upstate, and he actually was on Sports Center top 10 for an absolute hammer on this guy. He postered the crap out of him, and I think it was Sports Center #1. But he is an athletic freak. He went to Charleston last year and played, I think, 1 or 2 games before he got hurt. And in those 1 or 2 games, he was averaging like 25, 8, and 6. So the kid can play. He's young, as I mentioned. He's super athletic. I think he's 6'8", 6'9", and he can move really well. And then Lewis Walker, he's an explosive young guard as well. He was a freshman this past season, and he was dominant. He scored, I think he was their leading scorer or second leading scorer as a freshman. And he's a good sized guard. I think he's 6'5", 6'6". He should be able to play that two guard combo guard role, kind of like Riley Kugel did last year. And then you mentioned Caden Basco. I think he's the most unique player that we got from Wofford. He's a bigger point guard. I think he's 6'6" or 6'7", and he's a great passer. He was their floor setter, kind of similar to how Themis played for us last year. So I think getting a guy like that who isn't so focused on scoring and can kind of put on multiple hats and play different roles, I think he'll fit in nicely alongside Pacheco and the others who are coming back. And you mentioned Burks. He still hasn't committed, so there is a chance that he comes back. Usually when people leave, they don't come back. But I know he had given a lot of positive remarks regarding his time at UCF. I mean, we were the first team to really give him an opportunity. So I think he might end up valuing that and come back. I feel like if he hasn't committed yet, the chances of him coming back are better just because he hasn't found somewhere that really speaks to him yet, I guess. But I think overall it was a good portal. I obviously we'll see how things gel. I don't know if we'll be able to generate the same sort of success and chemistry that we had last season. But I think that the young talent that's coming in is intriguing for years to come, especially Mr. Dean and Lewis Walker. Like those guys could be real deal players in the next coming years. So I think it'll be another good season. Of course, with the expansion of March Madness, it gets a little easier to return to the big dance. I think I saw CBS's first projection had us in there as a 12 seed. So that might be a play-in game. But, just having that under our belt and guys who have been to March Madness, even if it's not the biggest production like Pacheco or Holsway, having guys who have been there and kind of know like, okay, this is what we need to do to get back. And they can teach the younger guys and kind of show them the ropes. And obviously Dawkins got his extension, so expectations are continuing to rise. But I think it'll be another positive season and another step in the right direction to becoming a real contender in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, I will get into the Stillwell situation. So, like you mentioned with Burks, like he could come back because he hasn't really committed to another team. And that's the same situation with Stillwell, except his was very clear. Like he just said, I'm going to enter the transfer portal, but I am going to keep the option open of returning. So you don't know. I think he's trying to get another year eligibility. Because he played JUCO his first 2 years. So he hasn't really gotten the most exposure at the Division I level. I think he's trying to get an additional year. But I mean, if he comes back, that's more size, more rebounding, more defensive tenacity out there in the court. So Stillwell's situation is kind of, you just got to keep an eye on it and see what happens if he decides to transfer to another school or come back. So that situation is a little bit up in the air, just like Burks, because Burks hasn't committed anywhere. So you never know. They may come back. Just like in football in January, we saw Horace Lockett enter the transfer portal and then withdraw his name from the transfer portal and end up coming back. So there could be a situation like that where the guys into the transfer portal, they don't get the offers that they were probably expecting or anything of that nature, or they just don't think the programs that are offering them are fit, and so they just come back. So you never know. Those situations are fluid, so you just got to stay up to date and see what happens with those guys. And to kind of close off the episode just a little bit, going right back to football, UCF was able to secure a lock-in with not a lock-in, secure a visit with Nasir Pitchford, Palmetto native. He plays for Palmetto High School. He is a 3-star defensive back. That's what he that's the position he primarily plays is defensive back, but he's more like an athlete. You know how high school is. They do these athlete rankings where you just play multiple positions in high school.
Right.
So, as you mentioned in your story about him today, that he kind of plays like Travis Hunter. He plays both the defensive back and wide receiver position. And when I initially did a story on him, his sophomore season, he only had stats on at wide receiver. There was no defensive stats, so there may be a little bit more juice at the wide receiver position, but I think being able to land a commitment from Pittsford as defensive back would be. It's actually, I think Pittsford is probably like a make or break commitment. I would say that's putting a lot of weight on him, but I'm only saying that because next season, if I remember correctly, you have 9 seniors leaving at in the defensive back group, and then you have 8 players who are going to be seniors in 2027 or under, uh, staying on the team, and that's if they don't enter the portal, right? So it's just you get a guy who you could at least build for a season, and if things don't pan out with the 8 returners, then you have some young talent in Pittsburgh. So, you also mentioned some of his other visits, so I'll let you go into that. And yeah,
Yeah, he's scheduled to visit UCF at the end of May, and then beginning of June he'll be at Kansas, which is funny that he decommitted from Kansas State and now he's interested in their rival. But not my problem. But he's an interesting player. I mean, obviously, not a lot of people can play both sides of the ball. It'll be interesting to see if he picks a position coming out of school. He's actually Palmetto High School is about 20 minutes from me, so he's local to me, my hometown, and he also plays. I don't know if they're as big of rivals as when I went to high school down here, but we also got Tyron Horns from Booker, and they play in the same district. So maybe Horns can do some recruiting and some pestering, a little bit of tampering to get him to come to UCF, and some legal tampering. We can pay him now, so it doesn't matter. But but yeah, I mean, you said he'd be a great get. I mean, of course, if you can get a guy with the athletic ability to play both positions, he can obviously play either at a high level if we decide to make him into a one-dimensional player. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. He probably won't make a decision for at least another month, obviously, because he's got visits locked up. But if we in Kansas are the two in the running, I feel pretty good about our chances. Also, considering he was already committed to a Kansas school and decommitted, so maybe he doesn't want to go to the cornfields and he wants to stay home. But yeah, he'd be a good get.
yeah, and with that, we will end episode 16 of the Night Castle. I am your host, Demetrius Montero, my co-host.
Matthew Feldman, thanks for listening, guys.
And again, we are the UCF sports beat writers for the UCF Roundtable. And as always, as every content creator does, do make sure you like and subscribe right under me, right here. And then make sure, did the QR code go away? No. I think the QR code is fried. Oh.
Roundtable.com, UCF.
But yeah, just just search up UCF Roundtable at roundtable.io, and that should show up to it should give you the link to the main page. And next
Yes.
episode there will be the QR code, because the QR code has always been there, and now it's not. So
It's abandoned us.
but yeah, make sure again you like and subscribe. Create an account on the Roundtable site, join the UCF Roundtable site, and stay in tune with the stories we drop, and always interact with us. So we will see you in the next episode. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.
See y'all.